Hi, welcome to the video. My name is Dychronic, and today, take a look at my top 10 PvE supers in Destiny 2. And of course, as always, I have made a spreadsheet for this video that takes a look at the DPS, the full super damage, and all the beautiful calculations, which can still be found at my Discord server, link in the description down below, at the channel #spreadsheetstocks. And if you don't see it when you get there, make sure you verify with the bot. Now, what actually has me really excited about this video and this spreadsheet is that it not only tells you the best DPS and damage supers in the game with exotics and the special combinations, it also answers one of the most important questions that you have probably had. Is it worth using a super before using your heavy and your special weapon, depending on how long that DPS phase is? So certain bosses may be 15-second phases. Somebody like Roke will be like 35 seconds. And is it worth using X super, then using something like Gjallarhorn, and then using something like Cartesian with Vorpal? And obviously these are not the best possible combinations, but it's a good example on whether something is worth it. And this spreadsheet, in this video, will answer that question rather definitively. And it has to do with a whole bunch of fun math that I'm just so excited about. And I know you probably hate hearing it, but these videos are not possible without support from my Patreon. And I have to be honest, is I may have to discontinue some of these spreadsheets because I'm just not making ends meet with Patreon. So if you want to see these continue, please consider checking it out, link in the description down below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. On screen right now, this is my spreadsheet, and all of its beautiful dark theme and pictures and all the different supers, as well as some of the new supers, the new updates, the new damage numbers of everything in the game. And obviously I don't do my top 10s like everybody else. If you want to know the best of the best, it's right there. It's pretty obvious, and of course it's at the spreadsheet link down below. And of course on the right side is the stuff I was so excited about, is going to be the stuff that tells you definitively whether something is worth using. And you can see these cells are highlighted green in the place that they are worth using. At the very bottom, just want to also mention a bunch of awesome graphs that help you figure out things a bit more visually. And just to reiterate, the way that this is set up is I assume you use your super, then you switch to Gjallarhorn and use that till the end, and then you switch to Cartesian with Vorpal. Now these are just stuff that I've chosen to give you an idea. Keeping in mind, you may not use all of your ammo in 15 seconds or even 35 seconds, depending on how long that super lasts. But it does do the math, and it proves whether something is worth using. Right, so let's go ahead and get into the main section of the video. Instead of just going through the top 10 and backwards, let's go ahead and get started with the meat and potatoes at the very top, because there's something very important to talk about. First up at number 1, we have Blade Barrage with Knock 'em Down with and without Star Eater scales. And the important thing to keep in mind here is the amount of damage difference that this has compared to something like Thunder Crash, Falling Star Titan is ridiculous. The best that it can output at 950,000 damage and 450,000 DPS is double that of Falling Star. And let me just say, as a Titan main, I'm a little offended, because we had the crown for about a year, but the Hunters came back with a vengeance. Even just the regular Blade Barrage with Knock 'em Down is still above that of Falling Star Titan, and it's still double that of Nova Bomb for Warlocks. Following that at number 2, Gathering Storm, the new Arc-based Hunter super with and without Star Eater scales, is still well above that of the Falling Star Titan. And furthermore, at number 3, we also have Tether Mobius with either Orpheus or Star Eater scales. Again, still in my opinion, better than that of Falling Star Titan. You have to keep that in mind. There are 3 out of the 4 possible super subclasses on the Hunter are the best DPS outputs. And honestly, even at number 9, I put Silence and Squall with Star Eater scales because it's really useful for locking down large groups of enemies, and including that of the boss. So in reality, every super from the Hunter is the best in PvE. And this is very important because really, what do Titans have as an option? If you can see here, there's a lot of blue going down this list. The first and second red are both Thunder Crash Titan. And the only yellow for a really long time outside of Nova Bomb takes quite some time to get to, and that's Daybreak, and that got pretty heavily impacted without Dawn Chorus. And furthermore, Tether Mobius oftentimes is a better option than that of Blade Barrage because of the fact that it debuffs the target in both team play and solo play, brings up your weapon damage, and brings up everything damage, which really has a big effect. So when it comes to just sheer output, the Hunters have it in almost every way. And even if the Warlocks get an exotic that triples the damage of Nova Bomb, they're still not going to be in the lead. It's come down to the point where the best options for all the 3 different subclasses, Blade Barrage, Thunder Crash, and Nova Bomb. But even then, Honestly, I'd rather have a Warlock on Well of Radiance, which is still an excellent option, sometimes rather have the Titan on Ursa Furiosa for the extra bigger damage bonus, and sometimes even the Hunter should be on Tether for the debuff. So there's never a one-size-fits-all. Following that, I wanted to talk about some of the ad-killing supers. First up, we have Arc Staff with Star Eater Scales or Radiant Flux, both of which are some of the highest total super damage in the game. You can see here, well and above every single other option by quite some distance. Keeping in mind that obviously you're using that super for a much longer period of time, but it also got buffed this season with more damage against minors and majors. You can also Whirlwind Guard with any version of it, and you have higher resistance while dodging with, again, any version of it. Arc Staff, in my opinion, probably one of the best upcoming supers that nobody's talking about. And furthermore, on long damage phases like with Rolk, it ends up being the best option, which is often very surprising. Although I will keep in mind that I was using my damage test against a major, and boss damage, it's usually a little bit less for Arc Staff. Other than that, at number 5, which I actually do consider a better super, Glacial Quake for the Titans. Now this thing, if you haven't used it much, is insanely fun and has some ridiculous output. If you don't know, the heavy attack spawns 6 crystals, 2 rows of 3 in front of you, and you can do that about 8 times if you don't move around a lot and you're not breaking the crystals that often. All of these crystals do a very high amount of damage in a very, very large area, doing incredible boss damage, ad slaying, completely locking down enemies with freezing, spawning stasis shards, incredible amounts of stuff on top of being part of a really good subclass. I use Stasis Titan all the time, and this super is too much fun. Unfortunately, it does not work with Synthoceps. It used to. And of course, for the Warlocks, Well of Radiance at number 6 is obviously a very good option, although it did get nerfed this season, where it no longer gives you that overshield, which was very useful, but still gives you good resistance, good healing, and that damage bonus, as well as Lutefaction, giving you that ability to have really fast reload speed, a very powerful option. Although Ward of Dawn Bubble is nowhere near as good as it used to be, it feels like Well of Radiance is just the better pick, and now also has the same buff, no longer that 35%. And lastly, there is something to be said about the Golden Gun 3-shot with Radiant, with either Nighthawk or Star Eater Scales, as being a pretty good option for DPS from good range and good full super damage. On top of the fact that each headshot spawns orbs, which with the 3-shot and the Star Eaters, you're going to spawn a lot of orbs for your teammates. Although obviously Blade Barrage is almost always a better option. And finally, as a TLDR, the Hunters are absolutely just busted this season. The Titans kind of have an option, and the Warlocks, you're kind of relegated to Well of Radiance almost every time. Although, with Starfire Protocol in a Well of Radiance with Witherhoard or Anarchy, you're actually doing probably top 10 DPS in the game. So keep in mind, this is just talking about the supers. We're not talking about the subclass, we're not talking about the weapons, this is just super combinations. Although I do think that Warlock do need something. And again, a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon. Really, these videos would not be possible and may not be possible in the future without the support of my patrons on Patreon. So if you like these videos and these spreadsheets, again, take a look at the description down below. And of course, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. My name is Dychronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.